My name is Dubé, and today I will be talking about how I add brass edging on some of the armor I'm making. Usually I will use a flat bar of brass, 1/8 thick by 1/4 wide. I use heat to form it to the armor. You have to be really careful not to heat it up too much, because this type of brass, I'm not sure what type it is, will crack if you heat it too much, so be careful with it. And then I use a vice grip to help it to take form to the armor. And sometimes it can be a long process, but like this piece here I'm doing right now is fairly simple to do. So I usually use four vice grips to do this type of job. It gives me more control over the forming of the flat bar. Once the forming is done and it fits correctly onto the piece, I move on to the belt sander. I use a 120 grit sandpaper. In this case, I only have to round off the flat bar, so it's a pretty straightforward shaping, if you will. I will give it a little polishing right away before I start putting in the holes for the rivets, because once the holes are made, you don't want to be buffing it. It's gonna widen the holes, and you don't want that, because in this case I will be putting in invisible rivets. So you don't want the hole to be too widened by the polishing step. Now I'm just burrowing the edges of the hole, so I have some mass of the rivet that spreads into the flat bar. So when I'm gonna be grinding down that rivet, so it disappears, some of the mass of the rivet will stay into that burrowing I did before. So now that I've done putting in all the rivets, I will be grinding them down. In this case, I will have to be careful during the grounding, because I don't want to touch the armor itself. It'll be a hammer finish armor, and I don't want any marks of the grinder on it. Now I will give it its final polishing. I'll be careful because I don't want to buff the armor itself. I want to keep all those hammer marks. So this is the way I do solid brass edging on my armor for now, until I find a better way of doing it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.